Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recaps. So, I know I'm a little late when it comes to this video. This was supposed to come out last week. Didn't happen, mainly because college has been taking over my life again, and it's been kind of awful. But now I'm here, and I am here to make another double recap. Last time we went over October and November of 2020. Now we go over the final month of 2020 and the first month of 2021. But the first question is, have things changed since the last recap video? The answer, yes. And not in a good way. And no, I'm not talking about my 2020 three-part recap. That was a special video. We're talking the last one, which was October, November, which I made in December. So since December, things have not been going great. They've really been awful in January. January was a bloodbath month. In that month alone, I made 5 canceled videos in the span of a week. A week! That should tell you how bad things were in January. And, when it comes to the movies that did come out during December and January, things weren't exactly bustling. Things weren't booming. Really, the only movie worth talking about, well, the only two worth talking about are the HBO Max experiment movies. Everything else is just kind of a waste of time, really. But I have to talk about them because they did come out, so I'm kind of obligated to say stuff about them. So let's do this. So our first movies came out December 4th, All My Life, Half Brothers, who cares? Just who cares? These were small movies. All My Life should have been on Netflix or Amazon or Peacock or anything other than theatrical. This should not have been theaters. It made no money anyway. It didn't even make $1 million in America. Not even $1 million. You really need to screw up in order to not make $1 million. Made $2 million worldwide. No one cares. And then the second movie that came out that weekend, Half Brothers. More people cared, but for the most part, the large majority of the population didn't know this movie existed. Made $2 million domestic. Who cares? Just who cares? These were throwaway releases. But actually, before we get to more interesting releases, can we talk about The Croods: A New Age for a moment? Yes, I know this is a November movie. We shouldn't be talking about it, but I will say this: The Croods: A New Age, it has surprised me, like in a positive way. It has legitimately surprised me because The Croods: A New Age has been holding remarkably well in the almost 3 months it's been out in theaters. It's crazy. Like, it opened the end of November with $9 million, which is one of the biggest of the pandemic movies. Had a normal-ish drops, but then after that, it's just been holding strong. I mean, look at this. January 1st, went up 27%, and then down 19, then up 10, then down 10, then up 1, then down 8. You don't see these drops ever, especially for a movie that's been out for as long as this. Like, that's insane. It's now made more than Wonder Woman 1984. On what universe would you expect to see The Croods 2, a movie not too many people asked for? Most people thought the first movie was just okay. And besides, this came out good 7 years after the original. Who would have thought that this would make more than Wonder Woman 1984? Exactly, no one on planet Earth thought that would happen, but it did. So, I gotta give a round of applause to Croods: A New Age. I mean, sure, its gross is still abysmal for normal standards, but yeah, when it comes to the pandemic movies, it's a top player, as weird as that sounds. So, yeah, congratulations, Croods 2. You're making some type of money, unlike most of the movies we're going to be talking about later. So, after December 4th, we had a dead weekend, which was December 11th. Things didn't start happening again until December 18th, where we had Fatale and Monster Hunter. Fatale, I will give it this, despite the fact that it looked like no one on the planet knew it even existed and only made like less than $1 million opening weekend, it had strong legs. It did. It's now made like 5.8 million off of a 900,000 debut. So it was like 6.35 times its opening weekend, which is quite good. I mean, granted, it came out close to the holidays. Normally, movies that come out around this time have strong multiples, but still, that's pretty good, all things considered. But still, it was a weak player in any context, pandemic or no pandemic. It was weak, but it could have been worse. Could have been much worse. So I'll give it that. It exceeded my expectations. My low expectations. Okay, Monster Hunter. We now get to a bigger movie. Monster Hunter. Oh, where do I begin? Well, I'll say this. Its legs were also stronger than expected. It opened at $2 million. I thought it wouldn't make more than five after that. But it held strong. In fact, it's continuing to hold strong. Very surprising. I mean, look at these drops. Like 12, 16, 11, 11, 20. Look at that. That's crazy, especially for a movie like this. This type of movie, you'd be seeing drops in the 60s, the 70s. Because, most video game movies tend to be extremely front-loaded. Warcraft and Doom being infamous examples of that. And even some of the Resident Evil movies, which is funny considering Monster Hunter has the same director and the same star, and if some of you probably already know this, but the director and star are married, so there's an obvious connection. Plus, Monster Hunter, Capcom franchise. Guess what else is a Capcom franchise? Resident Evil. It's the most insane coincidence ever. Like, they did this on purpose. Like, they knew, whoever made that choice, whoever decided, yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson should direct this movie, and we have to have Mila Jovovich there too. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. But anywho, Monster Hunter, it failed. It did terrible. Movie cost $60 million, made $25 million worldwide. That's horrible. Pandemic or no pandemic, that's abysmal. That means this movie's a bomb. A straight up bomb. And most people probably know this movie mainly because of the whole controversy surrounding it with China. Because you see, China was expected to be like a big money market for this movie. Because as you know, China, they love their dumb special effects, action, blockbuster, spectacular movies. It's the reason why Terminator Genesis, Venom, movies like that do well over there because it's what the Chinese audience is what they want. And a lot of people expected Monster Hunter to do well there. Well, it didn't because it got pulled from cinemas because of a racist, I'm going to use bunny ears, racist joke that left a lot of them offended. So Sony had to cut the joke out of the American version. But it just, why even do it? Like when looking at its box office, you just have to wonder, like, why even do it? Like, it wasn't going to save your movie. And everyone, well, at least everyone should have known that this movie would be bad because, as I said, this is from the same guy who made all those, well, majority of those terrible Resident Evil fan fiction movies. I don't call them adaptations. I call them fan fiction because that's what they were. The main character was an OC, for God's sake. So it was a obvious fan fiction. And I heard this is about the same. It's also less adaptation and more fan fiction, just like Resident Evil. So yeah, I'm not surprised this movie failed. I'm kind of glad it did. It didn't deserve to succeed. And yeah, that's it for Monster Hunter. And it's a shame. It's actually a shame because like the last video game movie that came out was Sonic the Hedgehog, and that was really good. Well, at least I thought it was really good. A lot of people really enjoyed it, and it made money. And now we're back to square one when it comes to video game movies. At least until the Sonic 2 movie comes out, which I will see opening night no matter what. But that won't come out till next year unless it gets delayed. And if it does, ooh, I'm going to be heated. Be very heated if that happens. But you know how I think you can guess how interested I am in these December movies when I just now talking about the Sonic movie. Because it was the only movie, well actually, yeah, it was the only real new movie I saw in 2020. I recently saw a 2020 movie last month. I'll tell you what that is in a second. But all right, now we get to the Christmas movies. Usually this is a strong period for movies. I mean, look at 2019. You had Rise of Skywalker. Sure, it was a crap movie, but it made a lot of money. Yeah, that. You had, I don't know, Little Women, Uncut Gems, Cats. Okay, last December 2019 wasn't all that great. But in years past, you had Aquaman, Spider-Verse, Greatest Showman. There we go. I was trying to think of another good one. Sing, I guess. That did really well. I guess I can say all the Star Wars movies that came out in December, obviously. But yeah, this release date is very lucrative. Extremely lucrative. And this year, well, that wasn't the case. And granted, it was none of these movies' fault. But still, it was a sad, sad time. Especially for me, because, as I've already said, I think I mentioned this in my 2020 recap video. It was part 1. December 25th, that wasn't a great day for me because the AT&T building near Nashville, the explosion that happened wiped out AT&T's service for a while. And one of the victims was me because I have AT&T service. I couldn't use my phone. I couldn't use internet. It was awful. It was legitimately. It was a terrible day. So yeah, it's giving me, just seeing December 25th is giving me flashbacks. But yeah, nothing really interesting happened that day except for one movie. I'm pretty sure you all know what that one movie is. We'll talk about it soon enough, but we got to go over the other movies first. News of the World. Yeah, honestly, I didn't expect super great things from it. But I expected better than this. I mean, it only opened like $2 million. It made like 10. I was expecting a bit more because, I mean, the movie stars Tom Hanks. Sure, he's had plenty of duds throughout the last decade, but he's still a legend. People know who he is. He's an icon, and people just didn't care all that much. So, yeah. Universal, also the movie cost like $38 million. Granted, I think it had some overseas rights with Netflix. It went overseas on Netflix, and I think I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Netflix in the US very soon. So I'm pretty sure they probably made their money back somehow with that deal. But yeah, this is... I don't even know what to say. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Universal, you tried, but it didn't work out. It did not work out. All right. Pinocchio, the upteenth adaptation of Pinocchio. Why? Why does this exist? Well, We know why, because, creativity is dead in Hollywood. We all know that. But yeah, this movie, no one knew it existed. It made $1.7 million. Why should I even talk about it? I mean, I know Disney's making their own Pinocchio movie with Tom Hanks, funny enough, as Geppetto. We'll see how that goes. More people will probably watch that, mainly to criticize and mock it for being another remake, which is understandable. The Disney remakes have been kind of bad. Well, very bad if you're talking about Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. Lion King was especially blasphemous. And then Mulan. I don't need to tell you what happened to Mulan 2020. It was the worst PR I've ever seen. Besides Netflix's Cuties, it had some of the worst PR ever. But enough about that. Promising Young Woman opened to 700,000, made 4.6 million. I thought it would do a tad bit better because I've been noticing, mainly throughout the last decade, there's been this weird trend of anti-Christmas movies, like movies that you never would guess would be released on Christmas Day. Movies like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Django Unchained, Wolf of Wall Street, Uncut Gems. None of those scream holiday movie for obvious reasons. And this kind of fits that mold. And it just didn't do all that great. I know it got some award nominations, which is probably what they were looking for. So at least it has that. But yeah, it's just kind of whatever. So yeah, sorry. What's her name? Carey Mulligan. I think I'm saying that right. Yes, Carey Mulligan. Sorry, but it didn't work out. Alright, now talk about the only movie anyone cared about the whole month of December. That movie, Wonder Woman 1984. Now here's the thing. I have seen this movie. I saw it on HBO Max. Mainly because my mom has an HBO Max account, and I just used her account to watch it. So I didn't have to pay a single dime to watch this trash fire. So I am internally grateful for that. Now, as controversial as the whole HBO Max experiment is, I will say, after testing it myself, it worked out pretty well. I was able to watch the movie on my phone, the way Wonder Woman 1984 was meant to be seen, obviously, on my phone. And, it worked well. I had no stuttering issues. I can definitely see the appeal of this whole experiment now. I'll give it that. I'll probably use HBO Max for a bunch of the Warner Brothers movies that are coming out this year because it worked out so well with Wonder Woman 1984. Doesn't mean Wonder Woman 1984 was good. In fact, it was quite terrible, which is a damn shame because I really liked the first one, which came out in 2017. A lot of people liked it, made a lot of money. So obviously, people had high hopes for the sequel because that's what happens when you have a good movie, a really good movie that majority of people like. When you make a sequel, people are expecting it to be just as good. Like, the fan base is there. Like, the goodwill is there. People expect it to be decent. And this time, it was just garbage. I mean, I'm not going to go into a full-blown review on this movie, but I will say a couple things. One, first 10 minutes should have been cut out. They should not have been in the movie. Warner Brothers was right for one to cut it out. The one time studio interference would have been a good thing. A lot of the plot didn't make sense. The whole wishing thing, like the whole wishing stone. There were a lot of extreme plot holes. There's a lot of broken logic. Cheetah, Kristen Wiig's Cheetah, she gave me Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2 vibes, which is not a good thing. The way they handled Steve Trevor's resurrection was dumb and kind of dark when you really think about it. Some of the CGI looked legitimately bad, which is shocking because this movie cost $200 million, and some of the CGI looks worse than some movies from 2010. How is that possible? Like, I don't know. But yeah, but I mean, the few good things about it: Gal Gadot still good as Wonder Woman. Pedro Pascal, great. He did really well as the villain, although his character was kind of dumb. But yeah, overall the movie was bad. Would not recommend. And I literally saw it like literally a few days before it was taken off HBO Max, because as you know, with the HBO Max experiment, movies will be on HBO Max in theaters the same day. Movies will be on HBO Max for like 30-ish days, and then they're taken off. So literally the last few days I realized, oh shoot, I could watch Wonder Woman 1984 on my phone. So I did, and I regretted it, because the movie was trash. But enough about how trash the movie is. Let's talk about its box office. How did it do? Well, it did not do very good. Now, for pandemic standards, it is one of the top performers, without a doubt. Its opening weekend is by far and away the biggest of the pandemic movies. It beat Tenet by a good amount, but still, 16.7 million. Damn. First Wonder Woman opened to over 100 million. So there's an extreme difference, if you couldn't tell. And its legs have been pretty abysmal for especially a movie that came on Christmas Day. You're expecting good legs, but look at its second weekend. It felt like a stone. It felt like its fellow DCEU brethren. Like, we're talking Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad. The Dark Age of the DCEU, which is funny because Wonder Woman temporarily ended the Dark Age, and then Justice League brought it back. And the last DCEU movie to open in December, which was Aquaman. Aquaman is the highest grossing movie in the DCEU, made over $1 billion. Nothing about this makes sense at all. Like, what's happening? But yeah, its worldwide gross is terrible. It only made 154 million, budget 200 million. So that's a huge financial oof, a huge L. It's gonna lose probably well over $100 million, I bet. Now I know they say, oh, it was streamed for like 2 billion minutes or something like that. So a lot of people watched it, but no one's quite sure how successful it really is. I mean, sure, Warner Brothers have said, oh, it increased our HBO Max subscriptions. We're from 12 million to 17 million in the fourth quarter. Okay, sure. You can say that's a success, but like, will this movie ever make back its money? I doubt it. It's probably deep in the red. Real deep in the red. So yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 is the biggest performer of the past 2 months, and it still was a failure. So that should tell you all you need to know about how successful all these movies were that came out in December and January, when the biggest one is still a financial disaster. So that's Wonder Woman 1984, a complete joke, a bomb. Of just complete trash. It was I've only seen 2 2020 movies, and they're Sonic and Wonder Woman. Sonic beats Wonder Woman by a country mile, obviously. Yeah. So now January. There's not much to talk about at all. Only 2. Count them. Two movies came out the entire month. Like, yikes. So we might as well talk about the first one, which was The Marksman, with Liam Neeson. This is his second pandemic movie. His first was Honest Thief that came out in October. This one did a bit worse, but still not too terrible. Opened to $3 million. It's made $9 million so far. Granted, its budget's $23 million, but this won't be a humongous financial loss. It might do well, like on streaming and PVOD when it gets eventually released there. I can see it having a bit of a. Well, I mean, Liam Neeson, he obviously has a fan base that are willing to show up to see these movies, even in a pandemic. They're willing to show up. So, yeah, The Marksman. Not much to say. It didn't do the absolute worst. So that's all I can really say about it. And then the last movie we're talking about, the end of the month, The Little Things, the second movie, a part of the HBO Max experiment. And how did it do? Well, for pandemic standards, it did better than average. It opened to 4.8 million, which is quite high for pandemic standards. Much higher than movies like Honest Thief or The Marksman, and even higher than Unhinged, the first movie to be released back when theaters reopened. But its second weekend is pretty bad. It fell like 56%. Granted, this past weekend was the Super Bowl weekend. That's a terrible time to release a movie. But still, that's a tough drop. But for pandemic movies, this is it's on the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to success. And apparently they said The Little Things is done popular on HBO Max. I mean, I checked HBO Max to make sure, and it there it was, like, oh, most watched, or like something like that. Like, it's like a weird ranking, kind of like what Netflix does when they do like their top 10 movies that were, or shows that were watched for like that day or that week or month. I forget. But yeah. So I guess the HBO Max experiment has been mixed so far. I mean, we still have a whole year worth of movies before we have an official judgment call on it. But so far, it's been, its opening weekends have been good. Second weekends have been terrible. Will that happen for all HBO Max movies? Maybe, but we'll have to see. And that was it for December and January. I mean, December, some interesting things happened. January was a wasteland. So, yeah. And I don't think February and March are going to be any better. So, I guess we can talk about what movies are going to be coming out this month and next month. So, February, you have two movies, Judas and the Black Messiah, part of the HBO Max experiment. You have that, Land, Tom and Jerry, that's a part of the experiment. Boogie, Chaos Walking. Raya and the Last Dragon will be in theaters and on Disney Plus Premium Access for like $20-ish, I think. So that's going to be interesting to talk about. Then after that, there's a 3-week dead period. Godzilla vs. Kong is now supposed to come out March 31st, not the 26th. So 3 full weekends of nothing. So what am I going to do for those 3 weekends? Well, I'm going to do what I was supposed to do last year. And that was do summer box office predictions early. Because you see, last year, when the schedule was normal, I looked at the schedule, there was a lack of movies coming out. There was A Quiet Place 2, Mulan, New Mutants, No Time to Die. And I was thinking it was kind of dead, not not a whole lot of quantity. So I thought maybe I can get, do some of the blockbuster movies, get them out the way first, you know, do them early. But obviously that didn't happen. But this year I'm hoping to do that. And for those 3 weeks, those 3 empty weeks, I will do prediction videos for all the movies that are currently, I need to repeat that word, currently uh, dated for the summer movie season. That means every movie coming out in May, June, July, August. That's how it works. Actually, wait. And September 3rd, because that's Labor Day weekend. So all those weekends from May 7th to September 3rd, I will talk about all the movies that come out during that time. Now, here's how it's going to work. One thing I must note. If you see a prediction video that I've made for one of these movies that are coming out in a few months, and then suddenly that video disappears, it gets deleted, and you're like, oh my god, what happened? It means that that movie either moved out of the summer season, got put on a streaming service, or was taken off the calendar entirely. Okay? Now, I've actually done this before. I did this in 2019, like before the pandemic. There were several movies I made videos on that I had to delete later because they got pushed off the summer season. Two of the main ones were Artemis Fowl and New Mutants. Now, we all know what happened to those two movies. Artemis Fowl went to Disney Plus, and New Mutants eventually came out to theaters and made a prediction video on that. But yeah, neither of those two movies had any real hope. So there's that. So there's a good chance I'll probably make a Fast and Furious 9 prediction video and then it disappears. So I'm just warning you now, that might happen. That might happen to any of these movies. Because you never know. Things could get worse. As we've seen last year, things usually get worse before they get even remotely better. So, yeah, that's the plan for March during the 3-week dead period. Yeah. And obviously, this February, March recap will come out early April. So, yeah. Overall, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out previous recaps, you can go right ahead. Last one I did was October, November, and before that was August, September. And I also did the three-part 2020 recap, which was pretty good, looking back at what happened last year. So you want to check out that 3-parter and all previous pre-COVID recap videos, go right ahead. I got 2 other playlists. I have the Canceled series, where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't because of a certain virus. I recently just made an episode on that. It was part 41, but if you want to check out all the other episodes, go right ahead. It's very informative. That way you can keep track on what gets delayed and what movie has what date. So, yeah, I suggest you watch it. And also box office predictions. I will make prediction videos for Judas and the Black Messiah and Land very soon on Friday. Then after that week-long break, I'll do Tom and Jerry. Then Boogie, Chaos Walking, Raya and the Last Dragon. Then that 3-week period, there'll be a bunch of summer movies that will hopefully come out. And then after that, Godzilla vs. Kong. So yeah, that's the plan for the next 2-ish months. Hopefully things don't change too much. Things don't go south too much. But if you want to check out past prediction videos, I have, the 2 I made for January, Little Things and Marksman. It's also on my 2020 prediction videos, like from the pre-pandemic days to the current pandemic days. There's also my 2019 predictions if you're interested in those. So if you want to watch any of those videos, go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.